Welcome to the show with no name for April 25, 2014. I'm Bob Going with Gavin Murdoch. Jim may be wandering in.
He may.
No, he's retired. He comes when he feels like it.
That's right. And I'd like to wish you and your family a happy Arbor Day.
Is today Arbor Day?
Today is Arbor Day, yes, already. It has gone so quick since last year at this time.
That used to be a big deal when we were kids.
It was a big deal.
Every year we were planting trees.
Plant a tree. That's right. The dogs need someplace to go.
Yeah, that's true. Particularly remember Arbor Day 1945 and 1946 when they planted all those trees dedicated to the Amsterdam High School fellows who died in World War II.
Right.
88 trees.
88 trees, and we've got about 15 left.
You know, I was over there on career day. It's now, of course, the middle school, but or an academy of some kind. But,
Lynch Literacy Academy.
Yeah, it's an academy of some kind. And fortunately, they gave me a room that overlooked the front of the school. That is the downhill side of the school, where most of the remaining trees are. There's a few alongside Brant Place, and that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I told them that story. It's also spring. Hey, do I hear Jim?
That's Jim.
Give the man a cup of coffee, Mrs. Going.
He's getting it.
Okay, come on here. Come on, sit down here, Jim. All right. We just got started here. We haven't done anything important. Okay.
You started early.
Well, by our standards, maybe. Okay. All right, we're all in.
We're early lately.
Okay. Jim, say something.
Something.
Okay, you're on. Yeah, we got the two microphones
There you go.
back there.
You're all set.
Plus, I got the internal microphone going, so we're actually a three-microphone family today. Anyway, we were talking about Arbor Day, and then where did we go from there?
We were talking about the memorial trees planted over at Lynch Literacy Academy for the...
Oh, yeah.
Amsterdam.
So I was able to tell the kids that story, and they all ran over to the window and looked at the trees. So it was good. You know, it's important that somebody remembers. Half.
More.
Half. We were just, there were 88 originally, there's about 15 left.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'll bet you there aren't that many people in Amsterdam even know what those trees are.
No, if they didn't read my book, they wouldn't know at all, probably.
Yeah.
Very few, anyway. I'm serious.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's also spring, and we I don't know, lean this way a little bit, Jim, just for a second. See, those are Mary's spring flowers there in the spring rain boots. We have our daffodils, and our forsythia came up dramatically all of a sudden.
All of a sudden.
Yeah,
Quickly.
really all of a sudden. As a matter of fact, my sister-in-law in Boston posted a picture of forsythia, and I'm saying, oh, geez, they're weeks ahead of us. And then Mary comes up the hill with a sprig herself. So, we're tied with Boston, as the Yankees keep saying.
It is, and here it doesn't take many days to get things going here, but we just got to get some of those few days.
I mean, look at how we went from a snow-covered golf course to opening day in about a week. You know?
Yeah. Surprisingly, it's open. Considering all the rigmarole.
There's a lot of snow jobs up there.
We fell in that trap, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I can't talk about last night's Yankee-Red Sox game, particularly since Jim doesn't care, but the night before, as Charlie Crable said, and he does have a way with the words, is the night before the Red Sox beat the tar out of the Yankees.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. I guess you don't have to have an IQ to be a pitcher in the American League, do you?
Boy. Or a manager, apparently, because it's you can't tell me Girardi didn't see that coming all the way and allowed him to do it. I mean,
I said, okay, you can do it, but don't forget, if you get caught, you're going to get suspended.
You're on your own.
It's the stupidity of it that is beyond belief, right?
Yeah.
The utter stupidity of it.
Didn't they say it earlier in the season, or?
Yeah.
Yes, the previous time they played, it was the same setup.
He had it on his hand.
He had it on his hand.
And it was like somewhere around the fourth inning, the Red Sox TV crew are zooming in on it, and they're saying, look at this, look at this. Well, at the end of that inning, he goes into the clubhouse, he comes out with clean hands for the next inning.
Had to wash
so it was
the dirt
too
off.
late to protest.
Yeah.
But it was in all the papers. It was on the front page of all the New York papers, you know. And so the very next time he's playing the Red Sox, he does the same thing.
Different spot.
And there's it was cold. I mean, you think under the circumstances he'd at least come up with, geez, I don't know how that got there. I was wondering what felt so sticky on my neck.
One of the guys must have
rubbed the bat against it. I got it in batting practice. Yeah.
He must be from North Carolina.
Why do you say that?
He'd be a Tar Heel.
It could be. All right. Okay. I'm gonna move this.
Speaking of Tar Heel, Bob.
Yes.
I need to make a correction from a while back. We made a mistake on a discussion we had. We were talking about Tom Riker, the basketball player from Babylon that played in the St. Mary's tournament up here.
Right.
And I mentioned that he'd gone to he'd gone to North Carolina.
And in fact, the answer was?
He went to South Carolina. He was a Gamecock. And that's where he went. He went to South Carolina. Because I originally thought it was North Carolina
Did someone
State.
correct you on that?
No. It came to me one of these mornings you wake up clear-headed and that stuff's banging around up there and you think, oh, that's where it was.
And then you did what to... then you looked it up, or you?
No,
or
no.
You just remembered
I remembered I was wrong, and I.
So how do we know you're not wrong now?
We have to take your word for it.
Unless you go ahead, you can look it up and check. But he was a South. Yeah, do that.
Okay.
You know, and it was on the. I know you've rearranged your viewing habits here and gotten rid of some of your cable.
Yeah, I did.
They had a Hall of Fames on the other day, and they did an interview with Pat Riley. And he mentioned numerous times that he had played at Linton, that his dad worked at GE, and he was also the Bishop Gibbons coach for a while. And you know, he just kept bringing it back to the hometown. Why he strove for success so hard, because of the
when the
work
heck was
ethic.
he coaching at Gibbons?
His dad.
His dad
was coaching at Gibbons.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he didn't. His dad did, and he talked about how unique it was that Adolph Rupp recruited him. There was some scout from Troy who contacted Rupp and put him on to Riley, because Rupp was always a Kentucky guy. He very seldom went out of state to get his players. But he came up and he got Pat Riley, and he was, you know, very, very pleased. You know, he said he'd gotten letters from a number of places. He originally thought he'd go to Syracuse and become an Orangeman, but instead he went to Kentucky and became a Wildcat down there. And he played in probably the most famous NCAA final of all time, because his Kentucky team lost to the Texas Western team, which was an all-black team, which is the first time that happened in NCAA history.
Is that right?
Because he was playing right at that crux of history during integration and civil rights, and that was a big watershed moment for college basketball when Texas Western won the national championship. And unfortunately, he was on the losing end of that, but he was a part of that. So it was one of the more interesting programs they've had on Halls of Fame.
Now, I mentioned on the radio show Tuesday how Riley had appeared for that half a second in the Columbo episode, and they mentioned his name. That's Pat Riley. Yeah,
not Pat Riley that we know from here.
Not Pat Riley from the funeral home. No, this is Pat Riley you're speaking of.
Correct.
Yeah.
The second most famous Pat Riley.
Right, the second most famous. Well, there was the wrestling coach Pat Riley too.
Yes, you're right. That's right.
Yeah.
But he spelled
it different.
Yes, he did.
But then we didn't spell anything here, so
they wouldn't know.
They wouldn't know. So the third most famous Pat Riley from the area, the one who played for the NBA Los Angeles Lakers with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yes, he did. National championship.
Yeah. Remember that great picture of when they won the championship of Riley hugging Jabbar, and he comes up to his navel.
Yeah. Well, that was a great team. You had Jabbar, you had Jerry West, you had Gail Goodrich, you had Happy Harrison, and Jim McMillan.
Anyway, we got it. You know, the radio show, we got into all these Netflix discussions, and Dave Hughes was talking about Steve Boschko, who was, you know, the script writer and editor for the early Columbo episodes, and Dave mentions that his wife was Barbara Babcock, and she would appear as a regular in Hill Street Blues, and he said, "Oh, you got." So that very night, we're back on Netflix and we're watching Cheers. And this woman comes on as a guest star, and Mary says, "Who's that?" I said, "That's Barbara Babcock." Now, I haven't seen Barbara Babcock in 30 years, and here she is on this episode, and I recognized her immediately.
As we spoke.
And it was just the same day we spoke of it. I forgot she had existed until that shows up. Anyway. So I thought that was interesting. Now, Gavin, we missed something on Tuesday. I don't know how we missed this.
What do we miss on Tuesday?
Earth Day. Now, I mentioned this to you specifically because you were a senior in high school.
Yes, I was.
On the very first Earth Day in 1970.
Yes, I was.
And were you one of the rebels that skipped school to go protest pollution that day?
No, I was not. I was one of the rebels who chose not to do that.
So you must have been the only one in the school.
Myself and Jack Putman. We drove to school that day.
with the oil burners.
As they were walking up Church Street, we were driving by and we parked up there. Now, I don't know why, but on that day I just decided to be a little of a rebel, and I parked over where the nuns' convent was. Jack parked out in the middle of the parking lot. By the time they got there and all the commotion took place, his car had gotten moved down to the woods by his fellow classmates.
They picked it up?
They got in it, they got in neutral, and they pushed it down into the woods there because they were protesting, and he was not a participant. But mine didn't get pushed because for whatever reason...
Those are the tolerance people, right?
Yeah. And I was parked on the side. I remember that. You know, all those guys, you know, look who the rebels were. You had Blanchfield.
Danny, not Reverend Tim.
That's right, yeah. Danny Blanchfield, Mike Surge, Marie Gavery.
Wait, former Alderwoman Marie Gavery?
Yeah, she was one of those.
She was Marie Labatt back then.
Yeah, she was one of those.
Don't blame Paul for that one.
Yeah.
He was already in college.
Yeah, she was one of those. You know, but.
So she was one of those rebels.
She was one of those. Yeah.
I remember there's abandon your car, right?
Yeah, they didn't.
So would they park behind Slezak's and then walk up the hill?
I don't know where they parked, but they all came walking up Church Street. You know, they had a big picture in the paper.
Yeah, right.
And everything, you know, and I never.
It's on one of the banners. I don't know if that banner survived. It was on one of the banners at the Walter Elwood Museum. I don't see it hanging there now, so maybe it got destroyed in the flood. It was in the flood zone. But that picture was on there, and back when Ann Fain was the director of the museum. You know, get involved in your community. You know, become somebody who pushes other people's cars down the hill.
Yeah, I wasn't much of a joiner.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you were an out-and-out rebel. You know, and around exactly at that same time, in fact, that was like the same time as Kent State. That was like a week.
That was the year before. That was '69.
No, it wasn't. It was 1970. It was the spring of '70. I know. I was a freshman in college.
Okay, I'm thinking. Yes.
Yes, that was right around the same time because everybody forgot Apollo 13 because Kent State came up. That was like the 1st of May or something.
Right, because that was the spring when the universities had their administrative buildings occupied.
And the buildings were being burned down.
Yeah, you are right.
It was around that same time. There was this massive anti-war protest just prior to Kent State. Maybe it was just. Well, it was around at the same time. Might have been just after Kent State because it was a huge protest, and you know, thousands of Albany State students just marched down Washington Avenue to the Capitol, and I was going holding a Young Americans for Freedom poster that showed that said "Tell it to Hanoi" on it. And I think that was also the same poster that had the peace symbol turned into a B-52 bomber. And the caption was "Drop it." So that was me, and they're all yelling and screaming, shaking their fists, and I alone am saying 1, 2, 3, 4, bomb Hanoi and win the war. So yeah, we were both rebels that year.
You know, and thinking back to that time, how quickly things got back to the status quo the next fall, because I was a freshman in college.
Right.
Fall of 1970, and there was virtually no residual effect from that viewed any place on campus.
It was incredible, and I noticed it particularly because I was involved in both ends of that. By the following February, the spring of your freshman year in college and my sophomore year in college, they tried to, the campus rebels tried to recreate the spirit and called another strike, and there were like 12 people showed up.
Yeah, it didn't.
It was a little more than that, but not much more.
It didn't have legs.
No, it died right there.
Yep.
And it's funny. I went to this meeting, and when I was in college, I didn't look like the animal that I am now. I was short hair and clean cut and suit and tie and all that stuff. And I walked around the room with a ballpoint pen and a large paper clip attached to it, T-wise. And I'd walk around and I'd hold the pen sideways and go click. Paranoia sprang forth through the room. Oh, it was unbelievable. God. Anyway, the reason I bring up Earth Day, not just because we missed it, and because I figured you probably have an amusing anecdote about it. I came across this morning. It's called the 13 Worst Predictions Made on Earth Day 1970. Okay? Let's see. These were some of the...
Do them all.
Yeah. This is Harvard biologist George Wald, W-A-L-D. All right. Okay. Obviously, professor at Harvard.
Yeah, what more do you need to say?
Civilization will end within 15 or 30 years unless immediate action is taken against the problems facing mankind.
All right.
End of civilization. That would be somewhere between 1985 and the year 2000.
And we're 45 years later.
Yeah. Okay. Number 2. This is Washington University biologist Barry Commoner. You remember Barry Commoner?
On the top.
We are in an environmental crisis which threatens the survival of this nation and of the world as a suitable place of human habitation. It's over. Number 3. It's the New York Times. Man must stop pollution and conserve his resources, not merely to enhance existence, but to save the race from intolerable deterioration and possible extinction.
What a sexist that guy is. Man? Yeah. What about the women?
We don't care about the women.
Okay.
I was about to give a quote from Blazing Saddles, but it's so bad that even I won't say it on a podcast. Okay. Because that was exactly the question. Oh, what about the women?
Yeah.
We kill all the men and children. Oh, what about the women? Well, never mind. Number 4, Paul Ehrlich, of course. The guy who was preaching the end of the world. What was that famous book he had that turned out to be total horseshit? Well, anyway. Population will inevitably and completely outstrip whatever small increases in food supplies we make. The death rate will increase until at least 100 to 200 million people per year will be starving to death during the next 10 years. 100 to 200 million people starving to death by 1980.
Are these guys making these predictions sitting in a hookah room?
What?
Are these guys making predictions while they're sitting in a hookah room?
Yeah, well, probably. It was around the same time. Okay, number 5. Who's this? Again, Paul Ehrlich. Most of the people who are going to die in the greatest cataclysm in the history of man have already been born. By 1975, some experts feel that food shortages will have escalated the present level of world hunger and starvation into famines of unbelievable proportions. Other experts, more optimistic, think the ultimate food population collision will not occur until the decade of the 1980s.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
Wasn't that the most prosperous decade in world history?
Yeah, I don't remember. That was 24 years ago, and I don't remember that happening.
Dennis Hayes, chief organizer for Earth Day. it's already too late to avoid mass starvation. Wow.
We missed it.
We missed it. Okay, let's see. North Texas State University Professor Peter Gunter. Demographers agree almost unanimously. Does this sound familiar?
They all work for Obama, don't they?
The issue is closed. There's no further discussion allowed on this. The demographers agree almost unanimously on the following grim timetable. By 1975, widespread famines will begin in India. These will spread by 1990 to include all of India, Pakistan, China, and the Near East, Africa. By the year 2000, or conceivably sooner, South and Central America will exist under famine conditions. By the year 2000, 30 years from now, the entire world, with the exception of Western Europe, North America, and Australia, will be in famine. Gee, what did Western Europe, North America, and Australia have in common, by the way? Free markets, open, unplanned economies. So why are they predicting that's going to work for them, but everybody else is going to starve? Demographers agree almost unanimously on that timetable.
Oh, at least the three that were sitting at the table.
Yeah. Number 8. It's from Life magazine.
Oh, it's got to be true.
In a decade, that means by 1980, urban dwellers will have to wear gas masks to survive air pollution. By 1985, air pollution will have reduced the amount of sunlight reaching Earth by 1/2.
Well, they missed it by a couple of decades because they're saying it now.
Right. Number 9, ecologist Kenneth Watt. Boy, you tell you.
What?
Kenneth Watt. Watt. W-A-T-T, just like
light bulb.
The guy we can't talk about because his name is evil. Right. That's right. He provides power. At the present rate of nitrogen buildup now, it's only a matter of time before light will be filtered out of the atmosphere and none of our land will be usable. Paul Ehrlich again, he's full of it. Yeah. Air pollution is certainly going to take hundreds of thousands of lives in the next few years alone. Okay? Again, Kenneth Watt. Number 11. By the year 2000.
Okay.
I love this one. By the year 2000, if present trends continue, we will be using up crude oil at such a rate that there won't be any more crude oil. You'll drive up to the pump and say, "Fill her up, buddy," and he'll say, "I'm very sorry, there isn't any."
So it's not just the guys who are talking today that are wrong. We've had people wrong in the past.
And a lot of them are the same people, and they're still listening to them. Right. We talked about this very thing because I brought this up in a recent show. That I remember this woman I went to college with spouting exactly this at that time. And I said, "You go back. You check there in 1920, they said the same thing. In 21, they said the same thing. In 28, they said the same thing."
Well, they figure they're going to be right eventually.
And last week, we've got more proven reserves than ever in history. All right. Number 12, Newsweek magazine. One theory. This sounds like some of those late night shows on the History Channel. Some people theorize that aliens from Jupiter, right? What do you got?
Well, National Geographic, the May issue, which I don't have on here, has a new theory on what you're talking about.
All right.
So
How to feed the world.
Yeah, I think we're good till 2050.
2050, okay, good. But they always were optimistic. Where was I? Newsweek. One theory assumes that the Earth's cloud cover will continue to thicken as more dust, fumes, and water vapor are belched into the atmosphere by industrial smokestacks and jet planes. Screened from the sun's heat, the planet will cool. The water vapor will fall and freeze, and a new ice age will be born.
And then what's it, the next week they predicted that would result in global warming, the greenhouse effect.
Right, right. These are all the same people, I'm telling you. This is, this is why when this global warming hysteria came up, it's exactly the same as this hysteria. And I remember distinctly these same crackpots were and it was unanimous. Everyone agreed with this back then. Every scientist in the world agreed that we were entering a new ice age. And Kenneth Watt, again, number 13. The world, this is 1970.
All right.
Right? This is, what was his claim to fame? Ecologist. He's an ecologist. He studies the ecology. I mean, who
better to know?
Who better to know? A man whose entire life is...
He's in touch with nature, his inner self.
The world has been chilling sharply for about 20 years. This is like the hockey puck in reverse. This is not the hockey puck theory. This is the Zamboni theory. Yeah. The world has been chilling sharply for about 20 years. If present trends continue, the world will be about 4 degrees colder for the global mean temperature in 1990, but 11 degrees colder in the year 2000. This is about twice what it would take to put us into an ice age. So by the year 2000, we're going to be in an ice age.
I want to be around to see that.
We got.
So wait a few years. As they say about the weather in New Hampshire, if you don't like it, you wait a couple of minutes, you'll have something different.
That's right. It would just save people time and space and words for these guys. Just get up and admit, I don't know. And one guy says, you do this happens. The other guy says, well, you do this, that happens. They don't know. And there are, if you do watch some of these programs, there is a cyclical of life.
Right.
There's a cycle of life of the planet.
And we are granted, we have the ability to make machines and burn coal and all that stuff. But taking the planet as a whole.
The whole planet.
The whole planet. We are a pretty minor part of it, mankind, okay? And the chemical reactions that go on, the wind currents that develop, and all this stuff, there's a view of the Earth that covers the Pacific Ocean, okay? And you'd swear that the Earth is 99% water if you only saw it from an angle, okay? That's how huge. Half of the globe just is the Pacific Ocean, all right? These things balance out in ways that we have no idea. As carbon dioxide increases, vegetation increases to suck the carbon dioxide and grow more food. As a matter of fact, food production has gone up dramatically every time the carbon dioxide increases in the air. All right. Yesterday, day before, I'm reading this great story about man can affect the environment in small ways. Out on the west coast, northwest coast someplace, maybe even, I can't remember whether it was Canada or United States, but somewhere up there where there were salmon fishing is a big deal, right?
Oh yeah.
And they had kind of given up on salmon fishing in this one area because the stocks were so depleted, and some guy figures, if you dump large amounts of some kind of sulfur chemical or something in a particular spot, it will increase the algae blooms that the salmon feed on, right? Mm-hmm. So they try it. So that this is not a big, huge operation, but they go out to this place in the ocean a few miles off the coast, dump the chemical in this particular spot. Within 1 year, I believe, the salmon population quadrupled. They had more salmon running up those rivers than they had ever seen in history.
So then they want to cut it down.
And on top of that, the algae was sucking carbon out of the air, and that which was not eaten by actually something else was feeding on the algae which the salmon were feeding on.
Okay.
So that which was not eaten by the salmon falls to the bottom of the ocean as calcified, sealed carbon dioxide. So in addition to providing increase in food production, a colossal increase in food production, it also serves to scrub the atmosphere. Now this is on a really minor basis, had tremendous results. So what do you think?
I don't think you should dump that stuff there anymore.
Are these guys being praised for what they've done?
They've inserted themselves into natural circumstances, and they shouldn't be doing that.
That's right. Well, and so the ecologists are up in arms over this, and they're saying, but this would mean that we wouldn't be able to shut down all these power plants, and it's more important to shut down the power plants than it is to solve the problem. And you're getting the same thing with respect to this fracking business. Look, if you want, what's causing the most pollution per pound, and that's coal. Okay, so you got all these coal-fired power, and all of a sudden you substitute the cheaper natural gas for it, and it cleans up the environment. No, that's not what they want. They want to control everything. No, we want to be able to shut everything down. We want to be able to go back into the dark ages and make sure we have 4 billion fewer people on the earth than we have now. This is our goal, not clean air for the people who live here and more food production. We don't want more food production. We want all these people to starve.
When all these wind turbines were the rage. When the eco people, the green people say, we're going to put one over in Hyannisport. We don't want them. Oh no, it destroys our view.
No, anything that increases the power and increases the production and increases the wealth, they're against. And they'll say they're for it until they build it, and then they're against it.
They're for it until they're against it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the next thing they're against. If you want to know what the next thing they're against, just find out what they're looking for now. Right?
The next thing. Speaking of that, we are seriously considering putting solar panels on our home, and we're gonna. I'll be coming over next week to take a look to see. And and I talked to him. I said, "What's the catch?" He said, well, it goes through, and he says, that's the hook, the reduced amount of electricity that we get from national grid is the hook. But what's the catch? He says, there isn't a catch. This is it. This is what we do, and this is what you're going to have. And I spoke to Bob Noto, and he swears by me. He watches me go backwards.
But what's it cost you to put it in?
Nothing. They put it in.
They put it in. You
have to sign a contract with them that.
What?
That
they put it in,
and they get the revenue from.
They get
whatever
we
is
pay
going back to Niagara Mohawk.
We pay $70 a month for it. That's it, and our power is reduced by the amount of sunlight that these solar cells generate. But you don't pay for it.
Well, who are you paying the $70 a month?
To the company that installs it.
Okay.
You have to pay for the meter.
That's part of your monthly bill. But that's it. I mean, you don't pay for an installation. You don't pay for the things. They get theirs from your guaranteed payment is $70 a month, and then whatever you don't pay the night mow is yours. And if you generate more than you use, NIMO has to give you a credit, and then it would come off a bill in the future if you generate less.
But if you don't generate $70 worth a month, then you're losing, aren't you?
Yeah. But with the amount that we produce here, you're going to produce that. Even you can produce on a cloudy day. You don't produce as much as you do on a sunny day. It depends on how much area you have how many panels you can put, or how much you generate. But
now, does the cost you're paying depend on how many panels you have?
No, it's just based upon how much you produce.
So, say your house has room for, say, 4 panels, and my house has room for 10 panels.
You'd be able to produce more.
At the same price?
Same price.
Well, actually, I sure got plenty of sunny footage on my roof, I'll tell you. Wow.
So, after they come and talk, I'll let you know how it goes and what we're going to do, but it's... I don't see, why don't more people do this? Because NYMO's prices are ridiculous.
Yeah, well, they sure are now.
But it's not, but Bob, it's not their fault.
It's not NYMO's.
It's not NYMO's fault.
It's not National Grid's fault.
It's not National Grid's fault.
Oh, good.
It's not.
They just transport the power.
Well,
yeah, they didn't. It's not their. It's not their doing.
People don't realize.
Nobody's responsible for it.
Probably. There's always somebody who can.
Well, that one guy claims there's price gouging. He said there's no way your power can go up 250% when there's only 100% increase in the cost.
Yeah.
You better pay it.
I got that letter in the mail also.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we all believe it.
You know, it's funny because when I talked to the guy on the phone, we logged into NYMO, or National Grid, so they could see our yearly use average in the month and everything like that, so they can evaluate and everything. And while we're waiting at this one point, the message is, this is National Grid. I'd like to thank you for your business. And even though this year resulted in astronomical increase in prices, it really wasn't our doing. You know, what the heck? They got a freaking machine telling you this stuff.
Right.
It is. It is. You know, it's.
Then I don't know. They sort of free marketed it by allowing all these companies to come in and provide. You can get your own electric provider and your own gas provider and stuff like that. But
they only guarantee it for 3 months.
Well, that's it. That's it. They're working on the spot market.
That's right.
And we went through this. You can imagine that 100 Church Street uses the museum building.
Uses a bit.
It uses a lot of gas. So we looked into the spot market's all over the place. We were better off just staying with National Grid or going back to National Grid and using because
it's a constant.
Yeah,
it's constantly going up as opposed to sporadically going up.
You got to read the fine print there. It says that this is only guaranteed for 3 months and you're
you sign up for 2 years and the price is guaranteed for 2
sure,
months.
then they get you.
Yeah, if they want to guarantee the price for 2 years, that's the only way you can deal with these things. Is a long term, right?
Otherwise, you get buried.
Yeah, the spot market can get you a great price this month and nothing the next.
Yeah. So all these investors venturing our capital on.
My grandfather used to say to me, "I don't understand this oil futures. The price of gasoline went up because the 30-year oil future went up." He said, "I don't get it." He said, "That oil's still in the ground over in Saudi Arabia."
Well,
I understand it, but I understand where he's coming from too. Yeah.
They're blaming the raising gas prices this week on the possibility of war in Ukraine.
The possibility.
Yeah.
We're going to get is all we can now because next month you're not.
And that can be okay because Ukraine is one of the major oil exporters in the world.
How come they have to import all their energy then? That's what I don't understand.
They don't produce any. All they have there is coal.
And we're exporting energy. We're exporting oil and gas.
Well, because it's fungible. That's the reason. It's fungible.
Yeah.
The world price is not set by your backyard. It's set by a million factors that we don't know anything about.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Wow. And
See, and us not knowing about anything is, right in line with what the government does. They don't know about it either.
No, they don't.
They don't get
well,
it.
of course not. Back when we had XM radio in the car. In other words, when we first bought the car, we had it for like 3 months. One of the car had it for a year. But anyway, there was this one nostalgia channel where they play the old radio broadcasts from the 40s. And I'm listening to that in the car one day, and they're actually doing like news broadcasts in between the shows.
Yeah.
And it's, the government announced today that in Region 2 outside in Chicago, that the price of this is going to be that, and the price and all this stuff. I said, what? Oh, and how many hours people have to work? 20 hours of overtime will be allowed, and like these guys sitting at a desk in Washington have any idea whatsoever what the needs are for this, that, and the other. I mean, I understand that, war production, we have to have so many ships built a week and stuff like that. But they were governing every aspect of the economy. And if you think things are bad now, I mean, during the Roosevelt years, it was economic freedom in this country disappeared. And went along with the worst the worst depression in our history too.
That's why they call it great.
It was a great depression. Really great. Anyway,
We had a recent Supreme Court decision this week, Bob.
yeah, and such an obvious decision.
What's this one?
Well, it's
What did I miss? Or did I forget it already?
No, could be.
Look, there have been a number of cases over the last 30 years hitting the Supreme Court about racial quotas.
Affirmative action.
Affirmative action, yeah.
Okay, starting with the Bakke case in California back in 1975, 80. That was, where I think it was Alan Bakke was denied admission to one of the California schools because he was white.
Yes.
In other words, there were minorities who got in ahead of him with worse credentials. And he said this should be unconstitutional because we're supposed to be racially blind.
Yeah.
Right? Well, that gets to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court kind of heads and hems and haws, and they said, well, California's got a right to do that. Even though they didn't, but they did, because of past discrimination, whatever, now, then the case comes down more recently from Michigan.
Yeah, that was where it was.
Where I think it was a Michigan law school case or something, where the Supreme Court now says, by like a 5-4 decision with Sandra Day O'Connor saying, essentially saying, we know it's unconstitutional, but we should continue doing this for another 25 years or so before, and ultimately concluding that Michigan state schools have the right to do that. Whereupon a referendum was put up in Michigan to eliminate this policy, as happened in California as well. And the resolution essentially says that there shall be no discrimination on the basis of race. Your merit is the only thing that matters. No, it didn't say that either, because you can always take economic considerations, and that wasn't part of it.
It cannot be based upon race.
But it could not be based upon race. 58% of people voted for it. Okay, passes overwhelmingly. So now, somebody takes it again to court now, saying that it's discriminatory not to be discriminatory. Okay. And that this has a negative, since this action had a negative effect on unqualified minorities, that it should be unconstitutional, not only against the law, but unconstitutional. that the law itself was unconstitutional. Well, 6-2 decision by the Supreme Court with 3 different opinions on the plus side said no. Michigan voters have the right to say no, we shall not discriminate, whether it's positive or negative discrimination. Incredible. The minority opinion by the Wise Latina was absolutely incredible in its idiocy.
Is Latina a racial group?
She says, yeah.
I didn't think Latino was a racial group. I thought there were 3 primary racial groups, and I don't remember that being...
No. What language you speak is the third one.
Oh, that determines your race.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Well, that clears it up. I had a misconception on that.
Well, again, this is one of those things that we know it's wrong, but we can't categorize it, so we'll just keep doing it. So there were some sparkling footnotes by Judge Scalia attacking the Wise Latina's position, which you read from the bench. And of course, all the progressives are saying, "Oh, this is just terrible. Oh, the Wise Latina is right. We must continue to discriminate."
See, well, because if we do discriminate, then that provides services for the supportive groups who specialize in working with discriminated individuals, which will continue to allow Washington to provide federal and state funding through taxes for these groups to maintain what they're actually trying to fight against.
Right.
There was, when I was teaching at the high school, there was an article about this South Vietnamese family. Mom and Dad came over here in the boats at the end of the war. They had 3 children, and they got a very, very small 2-room apartment over a grocery store. Within 12 years, they owned that plus several other grocery stores, and they'd sent their 3 kids to college from med school. One was a doctor, one was a lawyer, one was in education, and were quite successful. And it pains me to understand how somebody who comes here
with nothing,
with less than nothing,
right,
can take advantage of what is offered here to hardworking individuals. That we have people born here who have this opportunity, who for generations have not taken advantage of that opportunity except to categorize themselves as someone who needs perpetual help. We're in the 4th generation right now of people who have lived off the dole. And when we were kids and when our parents were kids, that was a big stain on you if you were on the dole, that you were receiving any sort of support. Now it is a subculture of that's the way it is.
Right.
This is how we function, and it's creating, as a local county executive said, a system and a society of entitlement. And there's nothing clearer in that when you look at what comes out of Washington, how many of these programs. If we are to view everyone as equal, everyone have an opportunity, why on every form you fill out do you have to categorize yourself under one of these subgroups?
Right.
What business does it matter what you are as a subgroup? Every report that we lose in education, you have to report it in one of these many subgroups. And
some of them you have to figure out yourself.
Oh,
based on the last name.
Oh, well, what if you are, one parent is of this particular ethnicity and the other is another? Where do you categorize yourself?
Suppose your name is George Zimmerman.
I changed that. But, how do you categorize yourself? Well, most people, it's the one that's going to give you the most for being in that category. If I'm going to receive nothing for being a plain old Caucasian, by golly, well, I'm partly a minority of some sorts, which
I don't even know if they put Caucasian on there. I think they put white.
Probably, yeah.
Think, yeah.
Yeah.
or we saw like, okay, Pacific Islanders,
Yeah.
Right.
Aleutian,
Or into it.
or into it,
Or out of it.
it's ridiculous. And I remember the first year we had that, we go back to Bush with our files at the high school, trying to determine what group these individuals went, because the parents would not identify themselves as a particular
How
group.
dare they?
We hadn't done that.
Well, somebody commented recently, somebody was trying to point out recently on one of the national blog sites that how come the startling increase in people who identify themselves as Native Americans on the census. And I wrote in, I said, what are you, crazy? Ever since they put that category in, people who think I'm an American, I was born here, are classifying themselves as Native Americans. They don't understand that what they really mean is Mohegan.
Yeah.
You know? Because unless you're into the politically correct language, you see Native American. Yeah, I'm a Native American. By God,
I got the follow up from the census.
Oh, really?
Last week, somebody, it was from the Census Bureau that it was another form they wanted you to fill out to
classify yourself.
Classify a group of people in the city and the county. Yeah, I filled this out already, but they want to.
And remember, you need to fill it out.
Yes.
Other pine.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
You could be held on penalty of.
There's a long tradition in my family. When I say long, I mean it goes back to the immigrant generation that the name going was at one time Gonzalez. And I think I got more. I have a more substantial claim to that than Pocahontas, the senator from Massachusetts. One of my friends, and I won't mention his name.
Just by him saying that, we know we're down to about 3 people.
We're down to about, aside from the people who are here, the other one.
I'm trying to think that other guy.
One of my friends moved out west a few years ago, and you know him well, and you would look at him and you say, this is he's the whitest guy I know. Okay? Blonde hair, blue eyes.
Yeah.
Okay. And his mother was born in Argentina. Okay. Qualifies him as a Latino. Mm-hmm. Now, his mother's family were Castilian Spanish who came to Argentina the previous generation. Okay, so the Castilian Spanish are, I guess, as white as Spanish people get. Or,
the upper crust.
Yeah, so that was the very fact that his mother spoke Spanish or came from a country in Latin America was sufficient for him to get extra credit toward a job in the education system out in California.
I got a friend of mine who's Italian, married to a Guatemalan.
Ooh.
They had 4 kids. The oldest one wanted to go to medical school.
Yeah.
Put on his application, Guatemalan. Got a free education. Got a free education. He got his 6 years of medical school. Didn't cost him a dime.
Well,
because he was a
recognized minority.
As opposed to unrecognized.
Yeah.
And the grandparents were very wealthy.
Yeah, well, this is I was about to bring up, and I'm thinking of a situation in my sort of in my family. I've mentioned before that my step-grandfather's first cousin was Lucille Bramer, the movie actress who danced with Fred Astaire and was Judy Garland's sister in Meet Me in St. Louis and such. Lucille left the movies when she married the son of the president of Mexico. Okay? And so they had they had like a mansion in Acapulco or something like that, and her kids. I forget whether they were born in Mexico or they were born in the United States, but Lucille was back and forth, and they ended up getting divorced, and Lucille settled in La Jolla, California, near San Diego. Her kids, her 4 kids, American citizens, I believe, and their Hispanic Latino roots are in the highest upper crust of Mexican society. They couldn't be any higher, all right? And yet, all they got to do is put it on their application.
And it's special treatment.
If they're watching, I mean, I'm not sure that this is exactly what happened, but this is exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Your only qualification is your race, you know, or what they call a race. It's ridiculous. We're at the point where we need to really live up to what the civil rights law says, which says there shall be no discrimination on the basis of race, period.
Yeah.
That's right.
Or what Martin Luther King said, they want them judged by not by the color of their skin, but the quality of their character, right? Okay. Now, there is a small argument to be made on the other side, and that is that there continues to be, or at least has been, I assume it continues to be, admissions that are made to college on the basis of my father went there or my grandfather went there.
That's a legacy.
Or my uncle made a major contribution to the endowment of the school, right? And that, in and of itself, is somewhat troublesome. I mean, that's a barrier that's impossible to break if you're
not of them.
If you're not one of them,
Correct.
Which none of us are. Yeah. Law school. I got absolutely no aid from Albany Law School. They didn't care what my grades were. They didn't care what my background was. But there was a girl in my class who got a full ride because her father had contributed to the law school. Right? That's baloney. I mean, that's like, you know, first you get the tax deduction for contributing, and then the kid goes for free, and there's no check on that.
No.
It's, you know, downright wrong. You know, if you're going to get a tax deduction, you shouldn't get the benefit of exactly the same amount coming the other way, right? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there are people who have the leg up because of who they are or who they're related to and things like that. I read an article recently about there was a notorious, not notorious, but a famous class at Columbia, like class of 64, 65 or something like that. For 1 year, the admissions director, there was a new admissions director at Columbia, and he decided that admissions would be made strictly on the basis of qualification.
Novel concept.
Yeah. Well, they ended up with an 80% Jewish class or something like that, which outraged the Columbia alumni, and the guy was out the next year. But that class, of course, produced a remarkable number of really competent people. But no, we can't. You know, we need more diversity, which means fewer Jews. You know, or you know, fewer Chinese, or Japanese these days. Yeah. No, we can't have that.
No. You don't want to have capable people doing anything. You know, they were talking as part of that the Supreme Court case that when California first went to it, the dropout rate from Berkeley for the chosen groups, the minority groups, was 50%. And it was 14% for the general population. And the guy was explaining, by having standards that are low, they're given an opportunity that's going to produce failure because they're not able to be successful. They haven't placed themselves in the past to be successful in the future, and therefore they're not going to be able. You can't make that quantum leap from no ability simply by opportunity at a higher level to be successful, and it doesn't work. Now, when you're looking at admissions, should they look at scores and have a variety of those people? We're going to take 50% of our class is going to be made up of students having an average of 90 or better in high school. We're going to have 15% that had something like that. Maybe it would give somebody an opportunity to achieve. But simply to do it based upon your last name smacks of pure, 100% unadulterated discrimination, and it should not be.
When I went to college, Albany State was really one of the harder schools to get into. Certainly in the state system, was one of the hardest schools to get into. Also, the only place I applied, where I was cocky. So, those who got in on merit were really a pretty elite group. Because you had really high SAT scores and really good grades in high school and stuff like that. But they also had simultaneously an EOP program, Educational Opportunity Program. Yes. Where they essentially took kids out of the slums, put them in the same college.
They ran a summer program for them.
With the elite, and half the courses were making up stuff they didn't in school, like reading. I mean, it was the programs that they had to take to even go into these college classes were. They were guaranteed failure. Guaranteed failure. So then, of course, they put in the African American Studies program, which was, mostly white suburban women taking the courses, but women's studies. Imagine going to. Yeah, majoring in women's studies, and that's
basket weaving.
We when I was department chair at the high school for social studies and assistant principal, I was involved in interviewing prospective teachers, and I had an awful hard time going through these applications, looking at these transcripts, and see some of the courses that these people had taken. Important them in 1875 to 1880. Ethiopian history in the 16th century. I mean, they were just so microscopic programs that it was not going to be conducive to educating the masses in the country because there's nothing there. These women's studies.
Transgender studies.
They're fluff. Everybody, as we used to say, there were gut courses.
Well, there are comic book courses. History of comic books in the 20th century. This is serious. I mean, these are at major colleges.
Isn't Skidmore or Sage offering a course in Taylor Swift or one of these these singers?
Skidmore's.
I mean, you gotta be kidding me.
Silas.
Miley Cyrus.
Miley Cyrus.
Yeah.
Yes. I did see that. Right. Yeah.
I just, there's an easy course. You have one easy course every semester.
I gotta tell you, when I went to, I didn't care what GPA was, and you know what? Nobody ever worked for ever cared what my GPA was, but I wanted to learn things. I took courses of things that I was interested in, or things that I thought might be helpful. Speech and rhetoric course, things like that. Jeepers. I don't know. Or things that just plain interested me. I'm sure, aside from this program, my knowledge of Greek and Roman history is probably not coming to use much. Well, occasionally, yes. You would say something erudite in one of my court decisions.
Yeah, see, lots of stuff he says is Greek to me, and so.
Right.
We aren't making the decisions that will end up in results that we're looking to have. We're making contra decisions. Something that sounds like it's going to work, but in fact, it doesn't work. It hasn't worked. People haven't learned history because they're making the same mistakes over and over again. It's over in Japan now.
Bowing to robots.
Bowing to a robot. I saw that.
And
in the paper.
And he's there to show support for Japan and its desire to maintain China's so China doesn't. What happens if China does?
Nothing.
We're going to say. We're going to put some sanctions on
we're pretty much at that point now where, I won't be surprised to see the names Quemoy and Matsu pop up again.
We make the same mistakes, and then they wonder why we're in the situation that we're in. Sometimes there's a hard decision you have to make to do the right thing. Doing the wrong thing is easy.
Doing the right thing or doing nothing is easy.
Yeah. It's doing the right thing that is hard, that takes understanding, takes work, it takes thought, it takes planning.
Nixon had a lot of negatives, but he understood using global power, and so did Kissinger. And I remember Nixon saying in one of his books after he had left office how, they say your options are limited. You're not going to. You may not be prepared to drop nuclear bombs on Russia over every little crisis that you have. He says, but when you're president of the United States, there are lots of little buttons you can push to squeeze here and squeeze there and let them know that there are consequences for things. But now we got these bozos in charge of our foreign policy. Yesterday they're doing foreign policy by tweeting from the State Department and doing selfies. Honest to God, I mean, where do you see this stuff that came out of yesterday? United Ukraine. Oh man! Somebody tweeted in Moscow something, and some State Department official tweets back and said, which we're the real Ukraine supporters. What? Yeah. And what does this have to do with the golf course?
Well, nothing with the golf course because they're using city water and they're not paying for it. So
is that the big thing this week?
That's the big. So they're fighting over the water rate now. The mayor wants to raise the water rate so they can get more revenue from the town, which is the only way they can get it. And Mr. Barone says no because Tom DeMezza will be come down and pounding on the desks.
Well, but it's more than that, and of course nobody understands it. Who's talking about it, but except me. Fact of the matter, such a small percentage of the total water bill comes from outside the city.
Exactly.
That when you raise the rates so that you can get more out of the town of Amsterdam, the people of the city are suffering a lot more than the people than you get back in benefit from the town. So it's nonsense. Let's admit they're doing what they're really doing, which is
subverting.
subverting the charter so they can take money from the water fund to supplement, to increase the general fund illegally.
So they can have it again, try to balance the budget.
So they have more money in the general fund. If they took all that money from all that extra money from the water fund and kept it in the water fund,
and lower the rates.
Then I don't care because then they're going to have to take it.
Well, that's because they screwed up to begin with. They give them a 40-year contract.
Well, yeah, but there's nothing you can do about that now. It's there.
No,
it's there.
At one and a half times the city rate,
right.
Instead of doing what they should have done,
right.
Which
right.
one of the reasons why they campaigned against me and the other guy, because we were for.
Because you're against that.
Yeah, we were against that. We wanted it based on the assessed value of the increase in the town properties.
Right.
And that would have been the fair way.
Right.
But no, they got what they wanted after the first of the year.
And now we got what they wanted.
And now they.
All right. So that's it. So it is what it is. But let's not pretend that's the reason the mayor is doing. The mayor is doing that because she can't balance the general fund without stealing money from the water fund. Yeah. And there's look. This is the formula. You have to do it algebraically because it change. When you change one thing here, you got to change something. Algebraically, you got to figure this out. And I'm not going to bother doing it because I'm not a math teacher. Well, here's my theory. The extra money that we get by charging 1.5% to the town of Florida and the town of Amsterdam, okay, that extra 50% that we get from them, that's the amount of money that can be fairly and honestly taken out of the water budget and put in the general fund, because the taxpayers of Amsterdam, before there was a water fund, are the people who built the entire system.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So we're in effect by charging that extra 50% to the town of Amsterdam and the town of Florida, and a little bit in Perth that we sell to, that is going to recoup the investment we made in the entire Glen Wild system, the 14-mile pipeline, etc. Okay. I got no problem with that. That's the amount of money we should be taking out. Anything else you're taking out is stealing.
Yes.
It's stealing from the water fund.
The only thing is it's allowed by state law, because that's the only fund that the city can legally take out of that fund and put into the general fund.
Except you can't do it by the charter of the city of Amsterdam. Okay. The only money that can be taken out is what I just said, according to the charter. You can only borrow money from one fund to another with the approval of the Common Council, which they never do. They just, So this isn't even borrowing. This is just outright taking.
This is a revenue for the city.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a way to get around the tax cap.
Every time they raise, and
it's wrong. It's just plain wrong. So, when we abolish the city, it won't make any difference. How are we going to do that again?
I don't know. That's not going to happen, because we have too many people that love politics. They love the power that they have, so-called power that they have.
Power.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in politics, when you're in the public domain for 30 years, I think that's a little too long. That's a little too long. It's 5 years, 6 years, maybe.
Who are you trying to get rid of here?
Well, there's a couple of them I think we should get rid of. Well, this will be the 6th year for the mayor, right? So
that's 6 years too many.
Yeah. And Mr. Barone's been in since he's a kid, so I think he's been in there too long also.
He was out for a while.
Yeah, a year, 4 years.
4 years.
2 years.
4.
4, was it 4?
Yeah, Bethany served 2 terms.
Oh, okay.
I think. Yeah. Maybe even 3. No, 2, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many terms have you served? You're in your first term in...
The second year of my first term. I got one more year in my first term.
That's your only elective office?
Yeah. Yeah, never.
You're a latecomer.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounded like a good idea at the time.
Yeah, you're doing all right. You're doing all right. So let's say, have you elected? You haven't. Oh, yeah. You don't do that till after the election. You elect the officers for next year.
Right. After the new board gets elected, there's 3 positions up: Dr. Bush, Reverend McCurd, and Peter Pritchard. So there'll be three running, 3 seats available, and afterwards, if they get voted in, or whoever gets voted in, we do a reorganization at the first meeting in July.
So we're actually approaching the election, right?
Yeah.
And is anybody else picked up petitions?
I have not heard of anybody else picking now. I haven't been on vacation for a bit. I haven't kept up on anything, but I haven't heard of anybody else picking up. I'm sure there have been, but I don't know who they are. And I've seen nothing in the paper about anybody saying anything. Haven't heard anything on the local airwaves about anybody else. They're due. I think they're due next week. The petitions have to be in. So at the end of next week, we'll know who's actually running besides the 3 incumbents.
Oh, speaking of things having to be in, a couple of days ago was the deadline for put up or shut up with $1 million for the casino project.
Yes, and we put up.
And we put up.
Yeah.
And who put it up, Bob?
Wow, this is what fascinated me. I just learned this morning. I was reading Christine Orr's column in News Notes that of course, there's this outfit from Canada, Canada ostensibly is put up the $1 million for Amsterdam. But far more interesting was who's putting together the financial package for this Toronto LLC.
Did you know the guy?
Do I know him? He's godfather to my niece.
Is that right?
Yes, my brother's best friend, Pete Marshall, is the guy who's running around doing this. And
yeah.
I told Sean about this morning. He says, "Aha!" He says, "Now I know why." He says he couldn't figure out why he was in Amsterdam last week when his mother has moved to Saratoga or someplace. He has no relatives left in Amsterdam. But all of a sudden, Pete was in Amsterdam last week. Now we know why.
That's right.
Great guy. This is Ed and Diane Marshall's son, Pete Marshall. And he was my brother's best friend all through school, and as I say, godfather to my niece, my brother's daughter. And last I knew, he was living out in, I don't know, New Mexico or something. I guess he's somewhere else now. His brother, Chris Marshall, is a TV comedy writer, and before that, he was editor of the National Lampoon.
And where did he graduate from school?
They both graduated from Scully.
Yes, they did.
Scully High School.
They used to live up on Market Street.
They lived on Market Street next to the Cortezes.
Yeah.
The Cortezes and the Marshalls. The 2 couples were best friends, as far as I could tell, like forever.
How do you feel about the casino if it went in over there? You think it's a good idea or a bad idea? Or?
Well, now that Pete's in charge,
it's an even better idea.
there might be some dealer jobs available.
Yeah, that's right.
My whole family get taken care of. Pete's a great guy. I love him.
Any sort of development that comes in here that's going to offer opportunity, spread out the tax burden, is a good thing. Is gambling the bank?
It's not going to be in the city. It's going to be outside.
Well, you're going to get the benefit. I mean, you're going to have people from the city who are working there.
Here's the thing I'm worried about. Amsterdam might turn into a gambling town if that happens.
You mean revert back to where it was 30 years ago?
There you go. There you go. Hey, speaking about reverting back, took the guys up to Liberty this morning to go by, and there's a whole lot of work going on the other side of the river there.
Yeah.
Where are we talking about?
The big cranes.
Yeah, down by the old, where the old mill was.
They're getting the staging area for the steel.
Oh, yeah.
They're working on.
Well, they're going to tear down those other buildings, or did they finish tearing down those other buildings?
I don't know if they finished.
They're starting that.
Yeah, they're going to have that pathway to stairway to heaven in there. That'll be going up pretty soon.
Yeah.
What are all the box cars and everything along the river up there in the west end? Those big containers stacked up along the riverbank.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't see that.
I didn't see those either.
I don't know what kind of containers they are, but they look like
They're containing something.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know I was wondering what they were.
I think we talked. Maybe it was when Gavin was gone. We talked about the mile-long oil tankers that are coming through through the valley these days, carrying crude oil to the Port of Albany. Of course, they're against it.
NIMBY.
They were against the pipeline that would send the crude oil straight to the port, but they're also against
the trains bringing them in.
Just leave it in the ground. Do what we say.
If they want to do something, you're just automatically against it. That's all.
Boy, they call us negative.
Yes, but I was going to say it, but
yes,
we can't now. Yeah, it's wrong. It's wrong. I can't say it. If Jim weren't here, I could say 2 negatives make a positive, but
yeah, right.
3 negatives get you a negative.
Then you get a negative.
Oh, I see. Okay. I think.
But yeah, but I took Misha down the other night for a bagpipe band practice, and you're right. This train, I was sworn this was 1.5 miles long. This tanker train.
Absolutely.
And I can't imagine the power and these engines to pull these things.
And they're coming from North Dakota.
It's downhill from there, but it's just huge. I mean, the amount of weight that they're pulling and the weight on the track, it's incredible.
That's why trains are a very efficient way of...
They are.
Keep the friction to a minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first time I saw one of those trains, we were going through the rock cut heading toward Amsterdam, so we're up on the hill. And all of a sudden you see ahead of you all the way to Amsterdam, and they're just chugging right along. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Unbelievable. But people are working.
You notice them because they've been talking about them before they were there, but they weren't talking about it, so you didn't pay any attention to them.
And Uncle Sire used to own that railroad. There's Burlington Northern Santa Fe. And Warren Buffett took it private, and Cy ended up having cash in his stock, which is too bad because now it's got to be really
worth something.
Yeah.
But it's how much what kind of employment goes with this? How many people are involved? It's wonderful. That's what we got to do. People need to be working. And we can't be.
The opportunity's got to be there.
That's right. And every time somebody comes up with an opportunity, there's 10 people knocking it, and then they come back and complain, well, how come we don't have anything?
Well, nobody's looked at the negative effects of the casino so close to a city.
What?
What?
What do you mean? There's every corner there's a casino in Amsterdam. Everybody's got a lottery ticket. Every freaking store is selling things.
That's the negative effects. They're not going to be selling as many lottery tickets.
It's going to hurt, but it is. I mean, gambling is pervasive.
That's not the point, Gavin. You know what I'm talking about.
He's talking about,
you gotta
organized crime. He's talking about.
We live in New York State run by a Cuomo.
He's talking about. Well, that's true. Hey, what's going on there, by the way? All of a sudden, you got the U.S. attorney ready to smack down on Cuomo, who's a Democratic appointment. Because he had this anti-corruption commission, which he suddenly disbanded when they started getting
too close to home.
Yeah,
they started investigating his people.
Not in my backyard.
Yeah. Wow. And on the same plane, the White House just appointed a new counsel, and it's a noted criminal attorney. Okay, I mean this is a guy who represented the Clintons in the Whitewater investigation. All right, I mean this is This guy's whole reputation is based on being a high-powered criminal attorney. All of a sudden, he's White House counsel. And, one of my correspondents says, what do you make of this? I said, Lois Lerner. Because, this IRS investigation has reached a boiling point. Because it's clear that the IRS was spotlighting conservative groups. And it turned out there were absolutely no left-wing groups that they investigated, but they stopped the applications of all the conservative groups. And of course, there's all kinds of emails that they're not releasing to the Congress. And she was making numerous visits to the White House. Well, okay, there's going to reach the point where those White House emails and other documents are going to have to be released somehow, just as the Nixon tapes eventually were released, and that was the end of him.
That's right.
So why else would you have a high-powered criminal attorney as your new White House counsel? Because there's some serious
crime. Yeah, there's some crime out there.
Yeah, and it's got to go right to the top, right to the top. But will we end up with Joe Biden as president within the next 2 years? I don't think that's going to happen.
No. And that could be a good thing. We don't have. But,
he's really crazy, that man. Did you see him in Boston last week? We're watching with just closed captions. So I think we were out to lunch or something, and we're reading the closed captions on his talk to these. It was on the anniversary of the Boston bombing. And he's saying things like, in a way, it's really a good thing that this happened because it brings out the best in people. And you see these people in the audience. It was like the opening night audience of Springtime for Hitler. They're just, there's nobody applauding. They're just kind of looking at him like this is the strangest thing. He's a crazy uncle in the attic.
Bring back the memories of Spiro T. Agnew. He just.
I noticed that you had to be intelligent to be in Washington. You had to know somebody, or you had to have somebody had to put you there.
So let's get back to this casino thing.
Yeah.
There are half a dozen applications from the district, the capital district, and one will be the winner.
Correct.
They said they had 21.
Well, I think that was statewide, wasn't it? I don't think there was 20. There can't be 21.
Yeah.
Can't be 21 in the capital district.
No.
But one of the ones that anteed up, of course, was for Kirsten Gillibrand's family's property.
That
now, if that doesn't smell to high heaven, I don't know. I mean, if they get it, and they are the most well-connected family in the capital district, if they get it, that will stink so bad.
But Bob, they won't care.
Yeah, they'll have the money.
When you get to a certain point, it don't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you stink. I got it.
The Saratoga outfit put 2 applications in. They put $2 million.
Wow. Yeah, the 2 within the capital district or 2 statewide?
2 in the capital district.
And Schoharie did put one up.
We got How Caves. That's in our district, right?
Yeah. And Albany put one up, but they're getting some blowback from the city on that. They were asking the developers, we want to see some hard numbers. Yes, you say this, this, and this, but so I don't. That can be a tough one.
Well, that's what's coming up in this
next round
meeting, right?
Right. Still, anybody who puts $1 million up is serious.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because 5 of them are going to lose $1 million.
A couple of them.
Unless there's some kind of collusion under the table.
A couple of them already have drawings and concepts.
If you're putting $1 million up, you got to have some serious preparation.
The one in Amsterdam didn't put any diagrams up yet.
Right.
They may have them, but
they haven't been
published.
Haven't been rolled out.
Well, they certainly will, though. I mean, they have to. Wow.
I guess this next round is you got to come up with specifics on the revenue, I don't know.
Do you know how much the license is going to cost the winner?
$50 million.
Yeah, that's the one weekend.
$50 million for the license. That's worse than the medallion for a cab in New York City.
Now, if it goes here, for example, that's obviously going to put a squeeze on Turning Stone. They probably got half their income from here.
Oh, well, it comes up here.
I wonder how well is Turning Stone doing that the state can have so many more.
I think I think they just did some expansion up at Turning Stone. They did some modernization up there to bring it up, because they haven't done a whole lot in the last few years, but they put, I don't know how many millions of dollars into upgrade the facility. And
I've never been there. You ever been
never
there?
Been there.
I've been there too.
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah, a couple times.
How'd you do?
I won.
Oh, there you go.
So gambling can be a good thing.
Well, I only went because I had to chaperone my sisters. So I figured I might as well sit at a machine while I'm there. I'm not a gambler, so
But you won.
I won.
No,
I was watching a Twilight Zone episode the other day with Everett Sloan, where he's on a business trip to Las Vegas, and he catches his wife putting a nickel in the machine, and he chastises her, and the next thing you know, he's starting to do it himself, and he ends up being totally obsessed, and the one-armed bandit is chasing him around the city and finally pushes him out the window. God. The fever.
We've been watching the John Wayne movies this past week.
How far are you now?
Oh God, I don't know what the hell they were. Last night was Red River.
Well, that was a real good movie. That one he should have got an Oscar for. That performance was absolutely tremendous. He wasn't even nominated.
That was that night. During the day, there was another one. I don't even. Elaine had it on.
That scene where he's going to kill Montgomery Clift at the end. That was fabulous. Fabulous. You know,
it was fabulous, but it was laughable that they're going to kill each other, and all of a sudden they're smiling.
Exactly. That was the one fault in that movie. They're killing. He's ready to kill. You can see in his face he's going to kill him, and then the next thing you know, they're hugging each other. Say, well, that was a nice fight. You know? Yeah. You were right, son. Yeah. But great performance by Wayne. Great performance.
The one earlier in the day, there was one on with Frank Sinatra. Who the hell else was it?
Not the one with Dean Martin and Ricky Nelson.
No.
And Walter Brennan, I think.
But it was supposed to be a John Wayne thing, but I think he was in there 2 shots. That was it.
I can't think what that would be.
Eagles.
Oh.
Something.
Yeah.
Something about Eagles.
Yeah, never saw that.
I don't know.
He got top billing for The Longest Day. That was part of the deal. If you want John Wayne, you give him top billing. Yeah.
Do you remember when that opened down here?
I do.
A huge crowd. I remember went down with my dad, and it was a circus down there. It was just hundreds of people waiting to get in to see that.
1962. They dragged Richie Dantini and a few other guys
Chuck
out.
Chuck Mahoney was down there. Yeah, and they were there.
By the way, I looked it up. Chuck was not injured on D-Day. It was a couple of weeks later.
Was it?
Yeah.
I always under the impression it was on D-Day.
Yeah, he probably left that impression, but it was another one of my grandfather's cousins.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, because he was my baseball coach, and his son Gary played with me and everything. And I, remember my dad talking about the guys who were on, and I knew he had some big chunks in his leg that were still missing from his wounds. But I thought though he got those on.
No,
on
it was not. I found the clipping. In fact, I've got it upstairs. Yeah. But the budget. What's his name? Former Alderman Artie. Then on. across from you.
Iannuzzi.
Iannuzzi, Art Iannuzzi's father, the other Art Iannuzzi was there, and the other barber down on the East End, what the heck is his name? Was Eisenhower's barber, but it didn't keep him from going ashore on D-Day. But Dantini was in the first wave. He was in that Company A that got decimated.
Right, and he was unconscious for the next 2 waves before they found him, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, at least 24 hours. Yeah, crawled behind a rock and they found him the next day as they were gathering up the dead.
Really?
Yeah. He got hit like 4 times, something like that. It was, 3 times before he even hit the shore. I think he said it took him half hour, 45 minutes, maybe even an hour to get to the beach. They were just hiding behind obstacles. He's hiding behind this one obstacle, and all of a sudden realizes there's a mine floating right next to him. And then he says, he's got to make well, do I stay here or do I stay here? And then the time to go forward, and then he gets shot. And
the rest is history.
The rest is history. 18 years old. 18 years old.
Can't imagine. Can't imagine that. At 18 years old, going through that stuff.
When I was 18, I was skipping Earth Day.
Every officer in his company was dead in the first 10 minutes. And in the first half hour, all the non-coms were too, or either dead or out of action. His lieutenant just, as soon as the ramp went down, boom.
That was it. Just like in Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah. Well, it was that scene. It was basically that scene. Yeah. Boy, that was a terrific scene. That first 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, that was. Wow.
Somebody said you can't. The only way to make that scene more realistic as to what that battle was like is if the guy sitting on either side of you gets shot while you're watching the movie.
Yeah. That is. That was a great movie. Also, the other movie that was, I thought, very realistic was the Band of Brothers, the series. That was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean,
of course, we're kind of made by the same guys, other than Spielberg.
And the thing that really held that back, though, was that the first episode played on 9/11.
Is that right?
Yeah. And that whole series was under that cloud the whole time it played out, and so it really.
Tremendous. I could watch that over. I was going to say whenever it's on, I watch it. Now I can't watch it. Yeah. I just check. Maybe Netflix has it.
It is a great one because it takes you all the way through.
Tom Hanks produced that, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. And of course, they used that same washed out color effect and that they'd used in Private Ryan and picked up a lot of that.
Yeah.
And of course, it picks up the story from there. Basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Except it's all true. I read the book recently. I had gotten the Stephen Ambrose trilogy for a ridiculous. It was D-Day, Band of Brothers, and I forget what the third one was, but his World War, his D-Day basically is War in Europe trilogy. It was like $9 for the 3 books at Barnes and Noble.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's a deal and a half.
Oh yeah. I think the cardboard box had a little tear in it or something, but
that's okay. All the words are there.
So all good books. That's the third one. Third one takes it to the end of the war. Boy, those guys went. That Band of Brothers, they went through everything.
Yeah, they did. They did. Oh, it's a great program.
I've never yet seen the Pacific one that they did.
I did.
Yeah, and?
I didn't like it.
Really?
Nah. I think the expectation might have been so high after Band of Brothers that when they did the one in the Pacific, it was, I don't know. It was a lot shorter. I think it was only 6 episodes. But it just wasn't, it didn't carry that visceral impact that Band of Brothers and Saving Private Ryan had. I didn't. I would say I was sorely disappointed.
it was partly based on E.B. Sledge's book that I quoted from in my book, who was with the Marine Company in Peleliu and Okinawa, which is just a classic book. I picked that up for $1 someplace, and I didn't even know what it was. I said, "Oh, well, I should read this," and it was. It turns out to be one of the greatest first-hand accounts of war ever written. Better than Caesar's. Of course, Caesar wasn't on the front lines quite as well. Well, maybe he was. I don't know. I guess maybe they were in those days.
No, it's hard to say. He has some good historians writing about him, besides himself, of course. Yeah.
I'm still reading the World War II stuff. I don't know. Maybe I got another book in me. I don't know. Another World War II book.
Yeah, and you got a screenplay in you.
I got a screenplay. The Civil War book is kind of taking shape in my head. I haven't started writing it yet, but it's
it's floating around up there, huh?
Yeah, floating around. I got some real life scenes that I come across. There's one. I was reading this book on the Siege of Petersburg, which is kind of going to be central to the novel, I guess. And there's this. The Confederate soldiers march into town, into Petersburg, and they got to quick get in and occupy it because the Americans are on their way. And they pass this house where the young girls, the teenage girls are waving to them from the window, welcoming the handkerchief, and they're admiring their beauty, and of course they've been in the trenches and fighting her,
So beauty is a relative term at that point.
Probably at that point. But anyway, they move on, move through there, and a couple of months later, because the siege went like 9 months, right, something like that. A couple of months later, they're marching back through, and the house is gone. It's been blown up. And they don't know what happened. So I'm going to take that scene and do something with it. Also, those little aspects of war that are
important for the understanding of the story, not just the reading of the story.
Right.
Makes it.
Oh, which reminds me, our movie of the week this week was The Book Thief, and it's a story about this German girl who is put in a foster home in Germany during World War II, or leading up to World War II and through World War II, and they end up hiding a Jewish guy through most of the war in their basement and things like that. And it kind of sounds like Anne Frank, but it's beautiful movie. It's got so many nice touches to it, and I mean, I'd heard good things about it, but Nazi movies are so,
powerful.
I still can't watch. I've yet to watch the Spielberg one, the Schindler's List. I just can't bring myself to do it. I know it's going to be terrific, but I know I can't deal with it. But this one has got so many sunshine moments in it that notwithstanding everything else that's going on. The narrator is a very affable angel of death. It's just a voiceover, but you kind of I say just a voiceover. There's a scene toward the end where he's walking down the street in the shadow in the distance, but other than that, it's his. He tries to avoid his contacts with humanity, but every once in a while
it bumps into him.
It bumps into him. And in the opening scene, the girl is traveling by train with the social worker, and the social worker's got her little brother on her lap, and the narrator says, I try to avoid contact, but sometimes, I think the line is, "She caught me." And it's the moment when the brother dies on the social worker's lap. And then all of a sudden you realize that it's the angel of death who's talking. And you know, sometimes I just show up accidentally, and the whole village where this movie takes place is accidentally bombed because somebody got the coordinates wrong, and half the cast is killed off in that scene. But it is brilliantly done, and the foster father, who's kind of central to the movie, other than the girl, is the guy who played the tutor in The King's Speech.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I know I'm recognizing him, and even when I see there's a name at the end, I don't recognize the name because but I know I've seen this guy, and I know he's a great actor, and he was a great actor. The performances by everybody in this, and there are even scenes where even the Nazis, or at least the lower level Nazis, show signs of humanity from time to time. You know, even if it's just pulling a body out of the rubble or something like that. And it's very realistic and highly recommended. That's all I'm going to say. It's outstanding, absolutely outstanding.
The Book Thief?
The Book Thief.
I haven't seen it.
And that's...
Would you have Netflix? Watch it?
No, we got a Redbox. Redbox, yeah. For buck and a quarter or whatever they charge. Boy,
can't get a glass of water at a movie theater for that price.
Right, exactly. You know, hate taking my business away from the theaters, but you know, when I watch them on the screen at home with the captions and hook the sound system up any way I want,
can't beat it.
You really can't beat it. You know, these HD screens are pretty wonderful invention, I thought. They do have the digital screens now in the theaters, which are nice. I still can't hear them very well. Getting my hearing checked next week.
Huh?
Yeah.
Where are you going? Dr. Ryan, the hearing doctor?
I'm going to some hearing doctor. Frankly, I don't even know who it is. I got the referral, and it's going to be after. Reminding me on the show Tuesday, if I start saying let's go out to breakfast, I have to get the thing at 11:30.
Okay, no breakfast Tuesday.
Hopefully, that'll clear up some of this. I'm getting to the point where
you get that ringing in your ear all the time.
No, I don't get any ringing.
You get a buzzing?
No, I just don't understand. I can't comprehend what a lot of people are saying. If I'm in
but you have to discount anything Mary says. So I mean, that's automatic. She's our wife.
She really thinks I'm doing this on purpose, and I'm not. Her voice is in a range I can't pick up easily. If she's got her back to me, I can't understand anything she's saying.
I wish I had that.
You know, I have to read lips.
Have you cleaned your ears?
It's not that. No, it's not that. It's just certain levels I don't hear at all.
You don't have that range anymore, huh?
Yeah. And it's. Rush Limbaugh did a wonderfully moving thing on the radio yesterday because he just got his new cochlear implant on the other ear, on the good. Neither one was a good ear, but they had reserved the one ear 13 years ago when he had the first one done, on the thought that in 10 years technology may improve that we'll be able to get your real hearing back as opposed to this fake hearing.
Yeah.
But he talks about what it is like. You know, it's like listening to a scratchy AM radio broadcast is the closest he could come to it, and that's at its best, his hearing. And not long ago, I was in the car. I think we have a pretty decent radio in the car, and they're playing Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. You know, speaking of D-Day. You know, dun, 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 dun. I'm listening to the whole first movement, which I know by heart, inside and out. And if I didn't know it by heart, I was missing half of it. Seriously. There were whole instruments that I could not hear.
Is that all our old rock music coming back to haunt us?
It could be that.
Could be.
But there's... My whole family on my mother's side has got terrible hearing.
They can tune your hearing aids so that you pick up those certain frequencies.
Yeah.
Maybe. We'll
Yeah,
see.
Yeah, they can.
Uh,
I used to fit hearing aids.
Yeah.
Now they don't fit you?
But that's as long, if it's only a matter of increasing the volume of those frequencies that I can't hear, then they can do that. But if I've lost the ability to hear that frequency at all, then I don't think amplification of the frequency is going to do me a damn bit of good.
If you've
we'll
lost
find out.
it all,
Yeah.
it all, they can't. But
And I may have lost it all in certain areas. Now there's a telephone in the mayor's office on the secretary's desk. Can't hear it at all.
Was it ringing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I would be in there visiting with the mayor's secretary, and the phone would apparently ring, and we'd be in the middle of a sentence, and she'd pick up the phone and say, "Mayor's office." I said, "Did that ring?" So the next time I put my ear, and I'm right next to the phone. I'm as close to the phone as I am to this coffee cup. So I put my ear right on the phone the next time it rang. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The dings in my car, if it's dead quiet, I can sometimes hear. But, if I leave the blinker on, Mary has to tell me the blinker's on. I don't hear it going ding, 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 ding.
You know what?
Yeah.
I don't hear mine.
It's outside my
I don't
range.
hear my directional anymore either.
I hear mine.
Do you?
Unless
You say that. I noticed that the other day. I didn't hear. I see the light flashing, but I didn't hear it blink because I flipped it all the way over to the other side and it was still. I didn't hear it really. Ooh.
Maybe they do that on purpose. They're probably in collusion with the hearing aid manufacturers.
Could be.
I'll bet you we'll find out that the car companies own the hearing aid.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, there's a certain pitch that you lose with age that the kids in school are using.
Yeah.
Where they would set their ringtones
Yeah.
to hit at a certain frequency.
Yeah.
And so they'd all be ringing in the class, and the kids could all hear them, the teacher couldn't. Yeah.
Oh, it was,
the higher frequencies.
when I was coming down Northampton, you have to put it right from Route 30. Your direction will come down Northampton.
Well, that's it. All the time. That never shuts off.
It doesn't, because you don't make enough of a turn,
Right.
and I don't hear.
No, I never hear that one. That's the one that comes up most often in discussion.
I'll have to pay attention.
Yeah.
Ooh. Well, hope they can fix
I know
you.
it's not just me, but
Hope they can fix you.
They can fix it. They can fix it.
well,
Then you have to get used to the.
it's impossible for me to be in court these days without help. They have these amplification things in our courts up here, and if I'm in trial, I ask for it these days.
Mm-hmm.
And then the battery will run out in 10 minutes, and I'm right back where I was. But if you can't hear what and I can't understand what the testimony is, then you got to constantly interrupt, and it's bad. It's bad. I mean, it was starting to get that way when I was on the bench, and that's more than 10 years ago now, and it's clearly worse. Very few times I'm in church I can hear what's being said. Father Medwood actually speaks in a range that I can understand. Mm-hmm. He's one of the very few people I can understand consistently. Whatever he's saying, I understand. But most of the readers in church
can't understand them.
Nope, lost.
Well, I don't want to have to talk and run, but I have to pick my son up at school. He's playing at a interment ceremony for a veteran up in Fort Plain this afternoon. I have to pick him up to take him up there for that.
Not terrific that the guy died, but terrific that you got your son supporting you.
World War, supporting himself. So World War II Navy veteran. I called the other day. And speaking of veterans, see that the commander of Post 701 passed away, Bob Setner.
Yes. Good
he
guy.
Died in.
Yeah, and young too.
Yeah, I saw his grandson was the goalie on the varsity soccer team this year, and he was a good kid, good guy, Bob.
Yeah.
Another friend too, Dick Hardig. His dad used to run out by Shuttleworth Park. He lived in the caretaker's house.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. So he just passed too. So it's been a bad, busy week. It's been a bad, busy week.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, as the angel of death points out in the movie, everybody dies. He says,
Do you know Paul Anasterio?
Who's that?
Paul Anasterio, did you know him?
Yes.
He died.
When was that?
Day before yesterday, I believe.
Oh, okay. He used to run the liquor store, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think he one time he owned the Professional Plaza on Market Street, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Correct?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Is he's not still in town, right?
Yeah, he lived on Coolidge,
Really?
and I don't think he sold the house, but he was living with his daughter down in Florida.
Oh, okay.
for a
That's
while.
what I'm saying, because I don't remember hearing about him in years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right then. So Gavin's got to go. It's after 12 our time. Probably not the time you're watching this, unless it's a real weird coincidence. And so we'll be back Tuesday with the radio show, and hopefully next Friday with more of the show with no name.